Hello, everybody, and welcome to Explaining the Unexplainable. And I'm one of your hosts, Mercedes Lucke Benedict, and I've got my amazing co-host right down here, Bishop Joshua Sparks. He's also an exorcist, so he's like amazing. I mean, this guy is amazing. We're so thankful to be back tonight. It's been a while since we have been had a show, so we are happy to get back here on the Web Radio Network with our producer Stan Fikes. And with that, beginning here, we have an incredible dynamic duo here with us tonight. And I'm going to turn this over to Joshua Sparks, and he is going to introduce them. Take it away, Joshua.
Well, thank you. It kind of feels like we're doing it for the first time all over again. It's been so long since we've been on here. So I just want to say welcome to Explaining the Unexplainable, hosted by Mercedes Lucke Benedict and myself. We step into a world where sworn duty and the supernatural collide. Our guests, Marianna, Robb, and Dave Rich, bring with them a staggering 59 years of combined law enforcement experience in Arizona. Years spent not only protecting the public, but quietly encountering phenomena that defy conventional explanation. From the skies above to the shadows on the ground, their stories challenge everything we think we know about reality. Marianna Robb, a 34-year veteran of law enforcement, served as a patrol officer, detective, and crime prevention specialist with expertise spanning arson, narcotics, and property crimes. After retiring, she took her investigative skills into a new frontier with the Mutual UFO Network, where she spent 7 years as a field investigator and instructor, teaching others to apply disciplined law enforcement techniques to UFO cases. Marianna has become a leading voice advocating for collaboration and truth in the study of unidentified anomalous phenomena. Excuse me if I said that wrong, I apologize. Dave Rich, with 25 years of service, brings equally compelling credentials, having worked in patrol, gang investigations, homicide, sex crimes, and narcotics. Like Marianna, he transitioned into UFO research through MUFON, where he also trained investigators in advanced interviewing and evidence collection. And together they co-founded UAP-PD, an organization dedicated to bridging the gap between law enforcement and the investigation of UAPs, the paranormal and cryptids, offering a safe, stigma-free space for officers and first responders to report and process their experiences. In this episode, Marianna and Dave pull back the curtain on a hidden reality within law enforcement that many officers have witnessed the unexplained and remain silent out of fear of ridicule or career consequences. Through firsthand encounters and compelling case studies, they invite us into a realm where professionalism meets the paranormal. Prepare yourself for a gripping journey into where law enforcement meets the unknown, a conversation that may leave you questioning not only what's out there, but what has been hidden in plain sight. So tonight, we're not just asking what's out there, we're asking why the people trained to observe, report, and testify have remained silent. What happens when the badge meets the unexplained, when evidence doesn't fit the report and the report never gets written? Marianna, Dave, you've spent decades chasing criminals, but what do you do when the thing you're chasing doesn't exist on any known record? And maybe the real question tonight is this: how many stories like yours have gone untold, buried not because they weren't real, but because they were too real? So I want to kind of set the stage for tonight. Marianna, let's begin with you. After 34 years in law enforcement, you've seen just about everything, or so you thought. What was the moment that made you realize there were things that didn't fit inside a police report?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having us on. That was a great introduction. That was awesome. Actually, for me, all my years, I have never seen or experienced anything. It's really interesting. I mean, I hunt, I fish, and I have never seen anything that I couldn't explain. But let me just explain to you a little bit about why we started UAP-PD. Even though I didn't see anything, I went to a meeting, a MUFON meeting, as a matter of fact, and they were talking about disclosure. And I was like, wow, okay, this is fantastic that, they're talking about it. I don't think it'll ever happen, but they're talking. But the problem is that they're talking about law or the Air Force and the Army, the military, and the airline pilots. But nobody was talking about law enforcement, first responders. So I came home, was talking to a good friend of mine, and I was asking him, I says, well, wait a minute, why aren't law enforcement officers being in the same category as seeing the unexplained? You know that there are officers out there. There's over 800,000 law enforcement officers in this country alone, and they're working 24/7. Somebody's got to see something, but nobody's talking. So I call old Dave here, and I told him about the meeting, and I kind of explained to him, like, well, do you have any, explanation onto why law enforcement and first responders are not talking about these things? And he goes, yeah, I can tell you exactly why. And then he goes and tells me the story about what happened to him back in 2017. And again, that's how we started UAP-PD.
Marianne, would you mind doing me a favor? I know this is a little off, but before we started, I didn't see the web radio logo, and I have a feeling that might be blocking your face.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if I'm not sure, but I asked Stan about it. I was wondering if you could scoot a little closer over today for me. There we go. There we go. Stan. I'm sorry.
You can put it on my face all they want to. They always tell me I have the perfect face for radio.
Yeah, I was going to say, put it right here. That would be great, because there ain't nothing here worth looking at.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for that. Thank you for doing that. But maybe we could put it on the lower part or something. That would be great. Well, anyway, I want to let you keep going. I just felt bad about that, because I know it's important for you to be able to speak and
don't worry about it. It's all good. Just getting the story out. If I get just my voice, that's even better. But like I says, is that this is why we started UAP-PD, and then I'm going to let Dave talk about why we started all of this and what happened with him.
Good job.
So basically I get this phone call from Marianna. She's like, hey, if police officers are working 24 hours a day, they have to be seeing stuff. If they're seeing it, and I'm like, yeah. She's like, if they're seeing stuff, why aren't they talking about it? I'm like, well, I'll tell you exactly why they're not talking about it. So I proceeded to tell her about what happened to me in 2017, because unlike Marianne, I actually had something happen to me. So 2017 was towards I had like about 6-7 years left in my career, and I was working on an assignment that I like to affectionately say I was working with alien life forms. I was a high school resource officer, and you can't get much more alien than teenagers, let me tell you. So I'm working at a school here in Arizona, and it was the night of prom. It was actually April of 2017. We're actually coming up on the anniversary of this event. So it's funny, Joshua, when you said, tell us that time that you started to realize that there was more to this world. This is the event for me, because prior to this event, I was about as hardcore skeptic as you could believe. I thought everything had a logical explanation. It was just a matter of finding what that logical explanation was. And I'd done pretty well in my life cramming square pegs through round holes to make sure I came up with those logical explanations. But on this day, it happened to be prom. So I show up at prom, and the principal of the school is there. And he says, hey, did you hear about the 911 call at the school? And I looked at him, and I'm like, it's a Saturday. Why would there be a 911 call at the school? And he kind of just laughs and says, hey, you need to call dispatch. So I called dispatch. I'm like, hey, my call sign at the time was Henry 17. So I call up dispatch. Like, hey, it's Henry 17. Hey, was there a call at my school today? Dispatcher starts laughing and says, you need to talk to this patrol officer. And so now I hang up the phone. I'm like, why won't anybody tell me about this call that happened at my school? So I end up texting the patrol officer. I'm like, hey, dude, did you have a call at my school today? And his response was, dude, your school is blank haunted. And I'm like, okay. again, hardcore skeptic. I've been at this school for about 6 years. I've never had anything happen. And I'm like, okay. So I give him a call because I'm like, I got to figure this one out. So I call him up. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? And so he proceeds to tell me this is the facts of what happened. Just before noon, we get a phone call, a 911 phone call from the front desk of the school. There's 2 phones at the front desk. There's reception A and reception B. On the screen in dispatch, it says the phone call is coming from reception B, which is the second phone at the reception desk. 911 dispatcher answers the phone, says, 911, what's your emergency? And it sounds like a woman kind of whisper talking, and it sounds like she says, I'm scared. Dispatcher's like, what was that? And it says it again, I'm scared. Dispatcher says, you're scared. And then it says clear as day, no. And then you hear the phone receive, the handset, drop to the countertop. So you hear like this plastic thud as it drops to the countertop. So because there's somebody there, dispatch ends up sending 2 patrol officers. So for 14 minutes, while they're waiting for the patrol officer to get there, there's an open line because this receiver is just laying on the countertop. And so the dispatcher for 14 minutes, every couple of seconds, like, hello, hello, pick up the phone. Hello, if you're there, pick up the phone. The next voice you hear on the 911 tape is the patrol officer gets there. They make entry through the front door using what's called a Knox box key, which is a key that every officer has that unlocks a little box on the front of the school that has a master key so you can get into the office. So he goes into the office, walks over to the phone, picks it up, and has a conversation with the dispatcher. Hey, this is who I am. It has to be the phone. It's the one that's laying on the countertop, and it's off the hook and an open line to you. So he's like, we're going to do a search. So they hang up the phone, and they proceed to do a search of this building. So this building is the administrative building at the school. The only things that are in there are the principal's office, the assistant principal's office, the counselor's, the nurse's office, and then the reception area. There's like a little supply closet that's over in the corner. So they proceed to do this entire search, and they don't find anybody in there. Doors were locked. They get over to the nurse's office. To make entry into the nurse's office, the door is shut, so they have to open the door. And what a lot of times what we'll do as police officers, when we're entering into a room that we don't know like which way the room goes, you'll do what's called a stack. You'll stand like really close to each other, so that when you go in, one guy will peel right, one guy will peel left, and no matter which way the room goes, you know you got it covered, and then you just adjust according to which direction the room goes. So the 2 officers stack and they go into the room. As one peels right, the other peels left, something physically pushes their shoulders and out of the room. The problem is he tells me there was nothing there. We didn't see anything, but we physically were both had our shoulders turned and something pushed past us out. They ran out of the nurse's office to look and see what it was, and there was nothing there. So now he's telling me this story on the phone, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, right, okay, have a nice night. And I was set to hang up and call it a day. Because again, I'm like, this is garbage. There's no way this is real. So I hang up the phone, go through prom, nothing major. Sunday comes, Monday comes, I go into work Monday morning. And my sergeant comes up to me and goes, hey, did you hear about the 911 call at your school? I'm like, yeah, I heard about it. Great. And he looks at me and goes, well, you need to investigate this. And I look at him and I'm like, why do I need to investigate this? And he's like, because it's misuse of 911, which is a crime in Arizona. You can't fake call 911. So being the hardcore skeptic, my mind automatically goes to, oh, they think kids somehow got into the front office and called from the desk, or somehow somebody found a way to tap into 911. What I didn't know is that my sergeant at the time was a very big ghost fan. What he really wanted was a guy that he knows that was a homicide and sex crimes trained detective to investigate a potential haunting from the perspective of this is garbage and I'm going to find the logical answer to it. So I proceed to do this investigation. I'm like, okay, fine. So I launch into this investigation. I pull the security footage from the front desk of the school. The phone in question is almost dead center of the screen. I watch the security footage from 6 o'clock in the morning till after they get there. There is nobody standing at that phone when the phone call comes in. And I see the patrol officers go up, and I see the officer pick up the phone off the desk and have the conversation. I also see the two of them go into the nurse's office at the bottom of the screen, and like less than a second later come running back out looking around like they're looking for something. And I'm like, okay, this is weird because there's nobody at the phone. But again, there's a logical explanation to this. I just need to figure out what it is. So I continue this investigation. I take a copy of the 911 tape. I send it off to be analyzed by some people to try and figure out, is it like a computer generated voice that somehow they tapped in? Because remember, this is 2017. There's no AI yet. There's no chat GPT. None of that stuff existed yet. So I'm like, okay, this has to be like somebody must have found a way to tap into the phone line. I went so far as to get the school to send the phone company out and actually crack open the phone box and see, did somebody old school tap into the phone lines? And there was nothing. Long story short, I end up running on every possible lead, and I cannot come up with a logical answer to this. So I end up realizing that, okay, wait a second. They said something physically pushed them in the nurse's office. So I'll go talk to the nurse. So right now I'm running down any possible lead I could get. I talked to the nurse. Nurse happens to be the wife of a sheriff's deputy. So I'd known her for 6 years. I'd been at the school. So I walk in, talk to her. Hey, how's it going? She's very friendly, outgoing, like you would picture a school nurse to be. She is fine until I bring up this phone call. And then as soon as I bring up the phone call, she immediately clams up and says, no, I don't know anything about that. It gets very short. And I've been a cop long enough to know that that's a sign. There's something going on. So I let it go. I leave. I come back a couple hours later, and she's friendly and outgoing again. And until I bring up the phone call. And then as soon as I bring up the phone call, she snaps shut, won't tell me anything. And I'm like, okay, now I know she knows something. I'll give it a couple of days, and then I'll come back and try asking again. During that couple of days that I was waiting, the results of the analysis came back from the phone call. The guy calls me up. He's like, hey, I got the analysis done on this 911 call. And he's like, I don't know what you have, but it's not a human voice and it's not a computer generated voice. And he's like, more importantly, it's not saying I'm scared. And I'm like, well, what does it say? He's like, it says I scare. So when the dispatcher said you're scared, it said no, and then drops the phone on the countertop. So I'm like, okay. But now there's a logical explanation for this is really kind of questioning me. So I go back and I talk to the nurse. A couple days later, go in there. Hey, everything's fine until I bring up the phone call. She proceeds to slam her pen down on the countertop and looks at me and says, fine, I'll tell you what's going on. And I'm like, okay, tell me what's going on. She proceeds to tell me that for her entire life, she has been followed by a ghost. She has an attachment. Whenever she moves, stuff at the new house, it won't happen for like about a week, 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden everything will start happening at the house. I confirmed this with both her husband, who's the sheriff's deputy, and her son, who's a sheriff's deputy now, but at the time was a corrections officer. They have haunted activity happens at their house. They'll be sitting downstairs, they'll hear footsteps and doors slamming upstairs when they know there's nobody there. Their dog will start barking at a corner and there's nothing in the corner. Her husband has seen a little girl running down the hallway and they have no idea who it is. There's nobody there. So I listen to this. I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I'm like trying to figure out what I'm going to write in a police report because I don't know where I'm going with this. And this is where the whole idea of UAP-PD came from, because a couple days later, I get a phone call from a different supervisor. He says, you need to come upstairs. You need to meet me upstairs when you're done with your shift. So I go back to the station at the end of the shift. And the entire time I'm sitting there thinking, what did I do wrong? Because I had no idea it had to do with this case. I'm just sitting there thinking, why does this sergeant want to talk to me? I don't get it. So I get back to the station. I go upstairs. I walk into his office and I sit down, and he has two computer screens set up. One of them has the security footage paused, and the other one has like an MP3 player. He plays the MP3 player. He plays the security footage. He looks at me and says, you expect me to believe this? And I'm looking at him and I'm like, excuse me? And he basically accused me. I don't even want to say basically. He accused me of making up the entire thing, of somehow getting the 911 operator, the two patrol officers, the people who analyzed the phone call, the people from the school, all in on some giant conspiracy to fake this. And I look at him and I go, why would I do that? And he's like, I don't know, you tell me. And so that was the button that should not have been pushed. I end up getting into this whole argument with him, screaming match back and forth. Again, it right now, just thinking about it makes me mad because at the point in my career, I had the life-saving award, meritorious conduct, distinguished service, distinguished team citation. I was what would be considered a highly decorated officer. This guy had done nothing except brown nose his way to a sergeant. So I end up storming out of there, get about halfway downstairs, and I realized what he was telling me was that I was not going to file a report. And if I did, I was going to be the one that was going to be in trouble. So I walked downstairs and did not talk about this at all. I had 6 years left in my career, and I did not say another word about it, because if I did, what was going to happen the next time I get called upstairs? And I am married. I had a young family at the time. I'm like, what would I tell my wife at the time? So I basically just kept my mouth shut. And the worst part is every year around Halloween time, somebody in the department would bring up this story about the ghost that called 911. And I'd be like sitting there going, dude, shut up. Just don't talk about it. Because if anybody gets in trouble about this, it's going to be me. And I'm not the one saying it. So needless to say, I didn't say anything for 6 years. Now that I'm retired, Marianne's retired, she calls me up and asks me about this. I tell her about it, and we start. The friend that she was talking with at the time was a friend of ours by the name of Alejandro Rojas. He big in the UFO community. And he basically tells us, hey, you guys need to start talking about this, because right now, everybody thinks the leading story about why first responders aren't saying anything is they're part of some conspiracy to hide the truth. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that our jobs are on the line by saying it, because no department wants to look like the department that has guys that saw ghosts or UFOs or Bigfoot. So Marianne and I decided, you know what? It happened to me. I understand what it feels like to sit there for years having to hold that inside. We know that there's other officers that are experiencing things like this, other first responders. So we created this organization to give them that safe place to start healing. And the first step of healing is to talk about it. And the part that's ironic is we've been doing this for now about 2 years. And you asked the question, Joshua, about like how many stories aren't reported. I'll tell you this much. We have over 90 stories in the 2 years that we've been doing this from all over the world. Our furthest report is from Australia, a police constable in Australia. But we have stories from me all the way to a constable in Australia. And like I said, we have like over 90 stories, and we're getting more every time we do podcasts like this. So again, thank you for having us on. And when we do like in Oracle, we're going to be in the Oracle Paranormal Festival this weekend. Every time we do these events, we get more and more stories, because it gives us an opportunity to let these firefighters, these police officers, these EMTs know that they're not alone. There are other people that have experienced things like that, and you can come and talk to us about it, because you're not alone and you're not crazy.
Oh my God. God bless you. Wow. Oh my God.
That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing indeed.
And we have, I mean, I've had all these experiences. I know, Joshua has had these experiences, and I know what it's like to be, treated as if you're lying. I mean, I feel so validated that I kept going, and I kept speaking my story, and I was able to get it confirmed. So I really appreciate what you guys have done. I really do. And thank you so much. Wow.
And it's funny because I don't know why at the time, but I still have the security footage and I still have the 911 recording. I don't know why I kept them, but I kept them, and I'm glad I did, because we use them now when we talk about that story, when we do our stage presentations, and we actually play the 911. We play the original 911 tape, and we play the amplified where they boost the sound. And it's the craziest thing, because you'll see on these shows where somebody will ask a question, and then like 2 to 3 minutes later, they'll get an answer that kind of fits. And they'll be like, oh, that's an intelligent response. And I'm like, no, if you want an intelligent response, the dispatcher thought she was talking to a lady. Like Mercedes, you're going to be down. We're going to see you on Saturday. I'll play the 911 for you when
Oh
you hear it.
wow.
And you're going to hear it's like conversation tone.
Yeah, they're just wow. Oh my goodness.
You know, there's people that want to see things, and then there's people that just stumble onto things, and then it just happens. It's like, you know, and it's like people don't want to really talk about it. There used to be a lot of taboo behind it, but now people are we have platforms now that we can talk about it on. You know, first time I ever seen a UFO, people thought I was crazy. My dad, he lives next door, and you know, during COVID, we walked out on the porch, he and I and my youngest son, and we noticed lights in the sky. And my dad said, "Those are not airplanes. I've never seen an airplane do that. It was just going diagonal and crisscross across the sky." You know, that night we all became believers, and you know, periodically I get videos and pictures every day of crafts that are over my house just about. And my dad, it really solidified his belief in what he was seeing when he was driving home. He said, "You know what?" He said, "I seen that light we always see in the sky." He said it was in the daytime, and he said it turned sideways. It looked like something you'd see on Star Wars. So people just drive, and you know, sometimes they'll follow me. I work an hour away as a therapist, and sometimes those lights will be out there, you know, in the wintertime when it gets dark at 5 o'clock when we get off from work, and the lights will be there, and they'll follow me home. And I'll see them over top of the vehicle when I pull in the driveway. You know, my wife was a skeptic, and until I took her outside and showed her on the camera what I was looking at, and she could see it. And it's pretty marvelous, you know. And I've got so many friends. The sheriff here locally, me and him have been friends for 40 years. And I'm sure the fire chief as well. The fire chief's one of my best friends. We grew up together. So I'm sure that they have all kinds of stories. Here in my local area, too, I've had a lot of Bigfoot sightings. A gentleman wrote a book about Bigfoot here in our local area that lives, you know, just within a few minutes span from here, along the this wooded area that goes from Boyd County to Carter County to Lewis County to Rowan County. And, you know, a lot of people have seen it. And like you said, law enforcement are out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They see things, and most of the time they don't report it. And your story is amazing. I mean, it's one of the most amazing stories I've heard. And I'm not just saying that. I've heard a lot of stories. And, you know, this is one of the best that I've heard. And it's amazing how that you've got this evidence about this call that came into the school. And, you know, things like this happen every day. And people just ignore it. They check it off as like you did, somebody tapping into a phone line or somebody playing a trick or a prank. But these things really happen. And, you know, as an exorcist, I see a lot of things happen as well along the same lines of what you're talking about. What is it? You know, who is it? Well, I mean, we really can't say for sure, but obviously it was someone or something, some spirit that was attached to maybe not necessarily that building, but that geographical location, that property, didn't want somebody to be there. So have you heard anything, you know, in present time about the school, or you have any contacts there?
I don't think it's the school. I think it's her.
Because you think it's actually the woman. Okay.
The nurse. Yeah, because when I was talking with her about it, and we got to talk, and we've done interviews. We've done a couple of interviews now with her. The whole reason that she was finally able to talk to me, I guess I forgot to talk about this part.
Yeah.
When I actually said, why are you willing to talk to me now? She basically said, because 3 weeks ago, everything at the house stopped and it was peaceful, and she didn't want to jinx it. And I said, well, why are you talking to me now about it? And she said, because last night everything at the house started again. And so she's convinced that it was me poking around trying to get to the bottom of it. It didn't like it, so it went back to the house. Ironically, while I was following up with the case, I was like, okay. And so I remembered the 3 weeks. I went and checked with dispatch, and I said, hey, was this the first 911 call like this we had? No, it was actually the third.
Oh,
the
wow.
first two, we didn't have voices, so they never sent off. Officers never went inside. They just walked up, looked through the window. But it lined up with the first one was 3 weeks ago, then 2 weeks ago, and then the one that I responded to. So it lined up perfectly with when everything at her house stopped, we started getting the 911 calls at the school. So I think it followed her to the school and it was hanging out at the school. It didn't like the fact that I was poking around, and so it left and went back to her house. But it's funny on a little side note how you were saying that, like, again, at the time, the entire time I'm doing this, I'm like, yeah, there's a logical explanation. I told this story to my nephew once because, we go camping and fishing up in the mountains. So sitting around the fire, and my nephew Jackson's like, hey, Uncle Dave, tell me a ghost story. Not really, at the time, this was really before I was really doing the UAP-PD thing. So I told everybody at the campfire that story. And I'm like, you want a ghost story? Okay, here's a ghost story for you. And my nephew looks at me and goes, weren't you scared? And I'm like, no. And he's like, how could you not be scared? And I kind of thought about it. And I was like, well, because at the time, I was 100% convinced I was going to find some sort of answer. It wasn't until you get to the end that you finally take that moment and go, I don't have an answer for this. So a lot of times, and I know not everybody has had experiences, but those of us that do, remember it's not usually the first time, like the first moment that you see it, that you're kind of just sitting there going, what the heck is that? Right. It's not until you really kind of process that information that you go, hey, wait a second, that might have been something.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I just wonder what, Marianne, did you have, since this has all happened, have you had more experiences, or still is it the same? No experience?
It's funny. Josh was talking about some people wish to see something and they never can see anything. I really don't wish to see anything. And if I did, it'd probably have to be a Bigfoot, because usually they're running the other way. I believe that we are definitely not the only beings in this universe. There are other, it's got to be universes, planets, galaxies. And like Dave said, which is very true, is that, the God said he created the heavens and the earth. Mm-hmm. So there are other beings out there. So yes, when people said they saw an alien or they saw something, I totally believe that they did. I really don't care if I do or don't. I want to be able to help law enforcement, first responders that might have seen something that I'm like, yeah, guys, you're not crazy. What you saw, we might not be totally explainable, but you definitely saw something. And we've had people come to us and kind of hesitant about telling their story until, of course, Dave shares his story with them. And it goes from being very on edge, very like, I don't want to talk about it, hesitant to talk, till after they hear his story and they're like, wow, okay, I'm good. They feel more relaxed and they share their stories with us, because it happens. It happened to Dave. It happens to a lot of people. And
don't worry, it'll happen to you. We've been on investigations and we've captured stuff on video and seen things, and she's never there. She's always like in a different part of the area or looking the different way or something like that.
It'll happen. But I just think I don't have he doesn't like to be called sensitive. So we won't call him sensitive, but the intuitive. I think I'm more of the matter of fact type investigation. I want to hear, okay, give me your story. Tell me what happened, your encounter. And then, hey, if there's a reasonable explanation for it, we're going to find it. But I haven't, again, we'll go out. We did one investigation where I got stuff. I was in my video camera. I was just videotaping, and I'm just going back and forth. I'm not really looking for much. But Dave and one of our other partners that we work with did see something. And come to find out, while they're talking, I'm just kind of zooming in and putting my my recorder looking in that area. Then after we finished, we went back to the office, and I was just looking at my the video I took, and then come to find out there's actually something in that video, and what they were encountering, what they saw, I actually got on video.
Wow.
But did I see it? Did I feel anything? No, I didn't do any. I didn't feel anything at all.
So this other person, there's two other members of the group that we work with. One of them is Jesse Irie and his wife Gwen. Jesse works at one of the prisons. He's one of the nurses there. His job is to basically staple me back together when I go charging headfirst at the stupid thing I shouldn't be running at. And Gwen, his wife, is a licensed hypnotherapist, but she also is like, she knows stuff. I hate to say the words, but she knows things. And she keeps telling me that she thinks I do as well. I just think I'm really good at making lucky guesses. But the things that I can't figure out is like, we've had experiences where like we have been this close together and I'm looking at something. And this was the greatest example. I'm looking at something about 65 feet away from us and she can't see it, but she's filming it. And then we take the videotape. We actually had a friend of ours, Mark D'Antonio, who's a very, very well-known video and photo analysis expert. He actually analyzed this video. And because we're investigators, we basically sent him a video that had one thing that looked like an entity like walking out, but we knew that it wasn't. It was a shadow from a post. So we send him both clips to see what is he going to say. Is he going to say, you know, we're kind of test our own experts to make sure that they're telling the truth. And sure enough, he looks at us and says, oh, this is nothing. This is just this shadow of this post when you're panning by. And we were like, well, yeah, we knew that. But the other thing, he's like, I don't know what you have here, but it's bipedal. You can see it walk into the road. It's like kind of rocking back and forth in the middle of the dirt road. And
wow.
It's remarkable. And the thing that's weird is I'm sitting here looking at it, and what it looked like to me didn't look like what it looked like in the video, but the stuff in the video is doing exactly the same thing. What it looked like in the video was like the movie The Predator, where you have that like kind of like almost like oil and water kind of blur.
Yeah.
But when I was sitting there looking at it, it looked like it was about 6.5, 7 foot tall person that had long shaggy hair on its head, not on its body. But it's weird when you see stuff like this, the things that stick in your mind. The thing that stuck in my mind was the color of it. It was this weird tan color that I remember thinking to myself, wow, if it was daylight, it would be perfectly camouflaged to the background. And I'm like, why am I thinking of that? But I see it. She is literally standing this far away from me, doesn't see it, but gets it on video. So, like, it's a matter of time. You're going to see something. It's a matter of
that. I mean, so that just reminds me of almost like the portals. You know, like they can go through, I believe they can go through portals. And I've seen that, you know, and I consider all these things gifts of spirit after much analyzation of how, you know, should we be able to see things or not? So I consider them a gift, you know, because we're using them in the right ways. And I don't know how
Exactly.
Joshua talks like that because we are on the Unseen Realm with Archbishop Ronald Weil Enright every Saturday. And so we discuss a lot of these same subject matters. So this is fascinating. Very fascinating.
I mean, it's discernment, you know, and it is a gift of the Spirit. And God gives us that ability to sense things, to be aware of things. You know, it's they call it the sixth sense, but it's really, everybody has it. You know, you just have to pay attention to it. Some call it your inner voice, you know. We all have it, and we all have to. It can be developed. It's something that we can develop over time. The more we listen, the more sensitive we become to it, and the more sensitive we become to it, and follow through with what it is that we feel or what we sense or what we see or hear. You know, it becomes part of who we are. It's interwoven into the fabric of who we are, anyways. Because you know we're created in the image and likeness of God, and we are so much like God, in the sense that we do have a divine connection to the supernatural world. That's why we see things that we see. There's a fine veil between this world and that world. And I don't believe that anything that God's created is that far away from us. And we was talking about God. You was talking about, Marianne, God created the heavens and the earth, and as an old Roman Catholic, I believe that God is the creator of all things, and Catholic doctrine teaches that He created everything that exists, visible and invisible. And if extraterrestrial life exists, it's still part of God's creation. And there's no theological and I want to say this for all you skeptics out there before you send me any hate mail. I won't read it anyways, but there's no theological contradiction between belief in God and belief in aliens. The church does not limit creation to earth alone. And I'll tell you a quick story. There was a gentleman who was a pastor in West Virginia, which is just about 20 minutes from where I live. And this is back in the 70s. Of course, back then you didn't talk about anything like this. It was really taboo. But he said that he was abducted by these beings into a spacecraft, taken into outer space. He asked these creatures that were on board this spacecraft if they believed in Jesus. And they said, oh, yeah, Jesus is our God also, but we didn't sin like you did. Our species didn't sin like your species did. And they proceeded to take him on this journey through the universe. And then they took him, of all places, to the Bermuda Triangle and took him underneath the ocean and showed him pyramids and showed him all kinds of different things, wreckages and different things that had been lost in this particular area of the world. And of course, he talked about it, but people called him crazy, called him psycho, so he stopped talking about it. But there are people that remembered hearing Brother Gardner talk about it, and it's something that's been continued on past, because he's been dead 35, 40 years, but it's a story that I tell a lot because it's very interesting. And there's a thing that I like to discuss as well, because there's an openness from the Vatican scientists. The Vatican observatory has addressed this topic openly. And the well-known example, Jose Gabriel Funes, the former director of the observatory, stated belief in extraterrestrials does not contradict faith, and aliens could be considered our brothers in creation. And Guy Cosmolago said he would baptize aliens if they asked for it, emphasizing the salvation's about relationship with God and not species. So I found that quite fascinating that they said that. There's a lot that our government knows. There's a lot that the Vatican knows. There's a lot that has been interwoven, not just in religion, but in time. Look at all the hieroglyphics of Egypt. They have UFOs painted on the walls. Native American hieroglyphics and and cryptids and things of that nature. So these are not just things that people are making up. I mean, it's not mass hysteria, and people aren't crazy when they see these things. I mean, I'm a licensed therapist, and I deal with people that have mental health issues all the time, and so I know what I see, and I know what I have seen, and I don't feel like I'm crazy now. Some people would probably say different, but I know what I've seen, and I know what's real. And like you were saying, Marianne, you haven't seen anything yet, but we need both types of investigators. It brought up something that I ministered on last weekend. I was talking about doubting Thomas. He said, "I won't believe except I see." Well, then it was proven to him that Christ had risen. And he believed. So, but what Christ said is, more blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. So I believe that it's kind of like Santa Claus. There's a magic behind believing these things, even if you've not seen it. And you being out there and investigating and talking with people and letting people's voices be heard, there's magic behind that as well. And I think it's very beautiful, very powerful what you all are doing. So don't let anybody discourage you. Don't let anybody detour you. You keep doing what you're doing and keep moving forward, because you are going to bring a lot of people together who do have similar stories, and they're going to have that connection with each other and that familiarity of the things that they're discussing, and there's going to be unity there, and there's power in numbers. So keep doing what you're doing. I just wanted to encourage you.
Yeah, and I just got to say really quick, because it's like when he was talking, I'm like, whoa, because it's like you are that part that, like, when you have to talk to the people and the people are nervous. I mean, you're like, you're just like what is that word? You're just neutral in a way. You're like, you're on the level of many levels, and it's like, I think it's awesome.
Well, and it's funny you should mention that, because that two things I want to talk about real quick. Going off of that, That's one of the things that we actually pride ourselves on. There are organizations like MUFON that only look at UFOs. There's operation like Bigfoot Research Organization that only looks for Bigfoot. There's paranormal groups that only look for paranormal. Because our focus is the health and well-being of a first responder,
Yeah.
we don't limit what they see. We don't care. At the end of the day, we don't care what they saw. What we want to do is give them an opportunity to heal, opportunity to talk about it. So in the process, we've had to kind of become like jacks of all trade, because we might have a story from one guy who saw a UFO, and then the next day talk to somebody who saw a demon or a spirit. So it is nice, like you're saying, we stay neutral because we want to give them that opportunity to heal. And the easiest way to do that is to just be impartial, neutral, let them talk, let them get it off. But one real quick thing about for Joshua there, I'm Christian. I believe wholeheartedly in Jesus, God, Jesus, my Savior, God, and everything. And it's funny, I've been asked by people, how can you be a Christian and believe in like ghosts and demons and aliens? And what I normally tell them, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're obviously a scholar in this more than I am, but I always tell people, hey, look, in the Bible, there is demonic possession. There are spirits. There are people with abilities. There's behemoths. There's juggernauts. There's creatures that we don't understand. And then they look at me and go, well, what about UFOs and aliens? I said, hey, I've been told, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've been told that the Bible is the rule book for living on earth. If I bought a Whirlpool washing machine, do I get the manual for the Whirlpool refrigerator? No, I get the one for the washing machine. The Bible is the manual for living here on earth. If there's life on other planets, which I believe there most likely is, they have their own interaction with God, and he has his own version of the Bible that they follow because it's for their planet.
I never
Yeah,
thought of
and
that.
that's true. But unfortunately, Dave, a lot of the Bible books have been left out of our canon of scripture that talks about UFOs and aliens and Nephilim and all these creatures that we're talking about. And for some reason, mankind didn't think they needed to be placed in there because they didn't deem it important. But, you know, in the book of Jude, it talks about the same things that Enoch talked about, the angels and the left or first estate and the watchers. And you know, if Jude talked about it, and Jude was the brother of Jesus. So if he talked about it, obviously Jesus probably talked about it. You know, the book of Enoch, I'm sure it was something that they read commonly. And you know, you got a good point there, and you know, this is where theology gets really deep, because you know, those of us who think outside the box, so to speak, you know, I've talked about this, collaborated with scholars and doctors of the scripture about this, and there's so many different ways you could go with that. And you're right, God's given us His Word. I mean, the book of Revelation even talks about cosmic things that take place in the heavens and in the skies that most theologians just read over because they don't have time to talk about it because it doesn't fit into their 501c3 system of beliefs. God's a lot bigger than we are, and God's a lot bigger than man-made tradition, man-made rules, man-made religion. And to say that you fully understand God is to have to come to terms with the fact that you really don't know anything. I mean, we know what He's revealed to us, like you said, through Scripture here on the earth. He's given us His Word, what we need to do to live faithfully here on this earth and to follow Christ. But God's not from this planet. God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Peran, the Scripture says. Teman meaning the south. South where? Where did He come from? We see Him step out of darkness, and He creates light, and He creates the sun and the moon and this earth and the universe. But you know, He's always existed. But where did He come from? You know, and let's be rational about it. God's an alien. He's foreign to this world. I mean, He might have created it, but He's not like we are. We are created in His image, but He's a spirit. He's everywhere. He's incorporeal. He don't have a hand or a head or a foot, or He encompasses everything. And, you know, are there aliens? I mean, listen, there's been so many people, millions of people see things, and you can't discredit what people experience. And we talked about those aliens saying they didn't sin like we did when they met with Pastor Gardner. They may not have experienced original sin like we did here on earth. In that case, they may not need redemption like humankind does. Maybe they've had their own fall. We really don't know. I mean, it's speculative at this point, but this is such a fascinating topic to talk about. Not just UFOs, but Bigfoot. And all, like here at Ashland, the Ashland police were locked in the cemetery, and a werewolf was chasing them through the cemetery. And they were screaming on the radio, "Get us out of here!" This werewolf could jump over 8-10 foot tall fences, and they were scared to death. And
we gotta get that story. We gotta get somebody from there.
Yeah. What? It was said that this was a guy in a suit, okay? But what guy in a suit can run on all fours like a dog, then stand up like a human and do flips over these fences? Yeah. And if it was a human, I mean, why would the police officers be so scared? I mean, when I was a kid in Ashland, when they would arrest you, they'd take you up to the 5th floor. God forbid if they did, because you may not make it to the jail. And if you did, your eyes would be swollen shut. I mean, they'd stop us on the road and say, "Hey, if anything happens while you're out here, you're going to be charged with it. You better get home." Because as kids, we were loud and obnoxious, and you know how kids are. But I need to find out if there's anybody alive that experienced that. I mean, I could ask.
Yeah, please, if you could direct them to us, because I would love to. I love werewolves. Sorry, I just think they're the coolest thing ever. And I would love to hear from somebody who experienced that.
Well, my aunt saw a werewolf about, 45, 50 years ago on her way to work on 168, which is a road that connects Ashland to Catlettsburg, which is all part of Boyd County. And she's seen it standing on the side of the road. I mean, she to this day, and the way she tells the tale, and it's in Barton Nunley's book, Mysterious Kentucky, that account is. But the way she told the tale just causes you to get cold chills up and down your spine. You know what I mean? It's just like it's wow. I mean, it's just the fear that she's 80 years old, and that fear is still in her eyes and her voice when she talks about it.
Now, can I ask you a real thing about the officers that were locked in basically with this werewolf? What happened when they got back to the station? Did they have any blowback from supervisors? Did they actually have somebody that would talk to them and let them share their stories? Or was it just like, Dave, hey, shut up and don't even talk about it anymore?
Well, it appeared in the local paper for some time. And, people have scanners that they listen to. So people are listening to the scanners, hearing the police officer scream, "Bloody murder, get us out of this blankety blank cemetery. This werewolf's going to kill us," and being me, I was raised in the woods, and being the great Scotsman that I am, we were trained to use weapons and stuff. I would probably have shot whatever this creature was. If I'm an officer of the law and something's endangering me, I've seen police officers shoot dogs coming to bite them. And if this thing's a werewolf, it's going to bite you. It's going to bite you. So you'd be okay in shooting something like that, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you are the expert in law enforcement. But if a dog or a werewolf or a Bigfoot or a chupacabra or Mothman's coming after you, I'm going to shoot and then try to run.
Very much so. Very much so.
At least that's what they taught us in the Army. But there was. Of course, it was something that was popular, was talked about. All kinds of strange stuff happened in our cemetery. We've got a lady over there called the Weeping Lady. She supposedly gets up at night and walks around the cemetery. People have seen it. My great-grandfather saw lights in the cemetery. Just all kinds of strange stuff. My uncle seen that werewolf. I need to talk to him because he's seen it behind a tombstone as they were all driving around. It used to be the place everybody went and hung out. On Halloween, people used to go dressed in long robes, and they would have candles, and they would be chanting and worshiping Satan. I haven't been over there in years because I'm not as skinny as I used to be, and I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm not as fast as I used to be. So if I could find a way to cloak myself so that I could hide, nobody could see me. I can't do that. But I'll have to ask my uncle about that encounter that he had. But if I get any information from police officers, I will forward that on to you.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
we do.
And now I want to go to Kentucky and hang out for a little bit, see what we can find.
I'll
And
take
I know Lee Hampel. I've interviewed him, and he talks about it's the werewolf of Wisconsin.
Beast of
It's
Bray
the
Road.
Briar, yeah. So he's been on twice, I think, and so he probably is. He's still there, so he probably knows the police because I know a lot of those same police have seen things. So that I could find that out for you.
Oh yeah, that'd be
I
great.
can't believe we're almost out of time. Will you guys come back again? Because we would love to even finish.
Sure.
Oh, we would love
Absolutely.
it. 'Cause we
Okay,
would love to share
good.
some stories with you from officers, but we just want, if there's any folks out there that are law enforcement, first responders that are listening and have a story they'd love to share, but they're just a little intimidated. They don't know, maybe we better not. I don't want to lose my job. I don't know if I should talk about it. We want them to understand that, first of all, it's up to them if they want to remain totally anonymous, which they can, or they can identify themselves. Whatever they feel most comfortable, that is it. They're the ones controlling the interview. We just want to be there to make sure they understand, no, you're not crazy. Things do happen.
And we have officers all across the board. We have some that are completely anonymous, don't want anything known, don't want us talking about the story afterwards because they're potentially still open cases.
Right.
All the way up to guys who are like, nope, you can use my name, you can use my face, you can use my story and presentations, all across the board. So you truly dictate how much you want to reveal.
And I have no problem being retired. Is if I need to travel somewhere to do the interview. I've had a lot of people. I had a Bigfoot case, and I've also had a UFO case that the folks said, I'll talk to you about it, but it has to be in person. I'm not going to do it on the phone, Zoom, or anything like that. I have no problem on my own dime. I will head up to wherever I need to go and meet with those folks to get their story.
Wow, what about if it's a fireman or
Absolutely.
any
First responders.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we say law enforcement, we're talking state, federal, county, the government. That's federal, isn't it? Game and fish officers, park rangers. And then when we say first responders, we're talking EMTs, paramedics, firefighters.
Emergency room, medical.
Yeah, anybody that's right there,
on the first lines. Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's amazing.
What about last responders, funeral home director, funeral home employees?
They have a
They've
lot.
got some great stories.
Probably some great.
Yeah.
I can tell you some stories I've seen because I've worked in a funeral home for many years too. I do that part time, and I could tell you some stories that would really be intriguing and interesting that I've experienced. But I'm joking around one time. We was having a meeting at the lodge or whatever, some kind of a meeting with first responders. It was a big meal and a big dinner, and everybody got together, and we were talking about that, and I stood up and made a joke about last responders, but they see things too. They're out in all hours of the night as well. But
dealing with the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hate
there's
to
a lot of
say it,
interaction between police and death care workers.
Yeah.
When I worked strictly nights, the police always helped us with removals, and if there was a murder investigation or something like that, we would, because a lot of times we would work transport for the medical examiner, and I take the bodies to the Capitol to the medical examiner to have them autopsied and stuff. So there's all kinds of cool stories that interweave together. We have to have them come back multiple times. We need to get them on Charlie Roman's show, Shadows of Legend.
Yes, you got to get on the Charlie show.
Yeah, Charlie would be glad to have you. I'll contact him tomorrow and send your information to him. You'll be getting
great.
We get a call from Charlie.
Okay, I
So,
appreciate
you'll
that.
love Charlie. Charlie, he's a reporter, and he's a writer and author, and he's very, very awesome, show host. And I could just sit and listen to Charlie talk he's got that voice, doesn't he, Mercedes? He just got that voice that's just, it's amazing. You'll see what we're talking about, but we need to get him in touch and get them connected, because you all, You're wonderful, and we definitely got to have you back multiple times because there's no way we could cover in an hour.
No,
And
not at all.
No way.
And
We
I
thank you.
want to say that we'll definitely, I'll be seeing you both on the 25th. That's Saturday. That's at Oracle, Arizona. So if you are near Arizona or in Arizona, go to this. I think it's a brand new Paracon, but this is not a brand new city. It's historically incredible with their hauntings and with just the history of Oracle. And I have to say, we went there to try when during the pandemic when we were told to leave our house and get out. I went to Oracle, and then I was looking for property. And I remember going and I was at this one house and I told Joe, I'm like, there's somebody in the window. I'm like, okay, so it was haunted. And so he's like, oh, great. We're trying to get away from them, but they're everywhere. So we didn't move to Oracle because we decided to, stand our ground here and do, with God and stuff. So, but Oracle is very haunted. So we're going to be at this Paracon festival, and that'll be all day. I'll be speaking. They'll be speaking. We have Tony Rathman, who is coming next week. He'll be speaking at the Paracon also, and he will be a guest speaker. So it's going to be phenomenal. And we invite everybody to go out there, and you'll get to hear more of what UAP-PD is saying. And it's going to be
And two really cool stories.
Huh?
We're going to do two really cool stories.
Ooh, I wish you could come and be here too. Zoom over here through a portal and get here.
I'd love to. If I could do that, I would love to be able to do that. If I could travel that way, it would make my job as a bishop so much easier. Like if I've got to go to New Zealand or Africa, or if I got to go to California, it'd be so much easier. If I could just leave here and go to California with Archbishop, meet with him, and then come back home like that, that would be fantastic. But I don't want to be lost in the mix of being transported or teleported there, because this is an awful lot of human being to take apart and put back together.
I could actually film. I could do a live stream for you guys while I'm there. I could film it. So if you want me to, let me know, because I can just put the camera on, either way. But anyway, we probably better say good night. So I'm going to let Bishop Joshua say our good nights. And then if you guys want to say anything else, please let us know some more information before we close the show.
Basically, just if, again, any first responders or law enforcement that would love to share their encounters, or anybody that would like to just talk to us, you can contact us on our website, which is UAP-PD.com. Also, we have a Facebook page, and at UAP-PD. We'd love to have everybody come on and check us out.
Yay. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, tonight we've opened the door, but we haven't closed the case, because maybe the truth isn't just out there. Maybe it's been standing beside us all along, waiting for someone brave enough to report it. Thank you for joining us tonight on Explaining the Unexplainable. I'm your host, Joshua Sparks, with the lovely Mercedes Benedict, and we bid you good night until next time. God bless you, and we love you.
God bless you. Good night, you too.
Good night. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you.